Nicole Gerard here from the GYST Method, and today I am joined, of course, by
Kirby James from the GYST Method in beautiful Port Credit near Toronto.
Yeah, and we, as on our morning meeting route, we've noticed something that's come out in the last probably 48 hours more prevalently. It's starting to trickle in, but we thought we would do a really quick video in regards to the impending job cuts and market downturns that everyone is starting to predict.
And it is really interesting because on the one hand, we're hearing from politicians and elsewhere about how great the economic numbers are. And despite everything looks wonderful. And then Deutsche Bank, Bombardier, and all of a sudden we're starting to see this sequence of activity. And of course, we can't know whether it's a predictor of what's to come or whether it's just a coincidence. Yet it got us, as you said, talking, other than the fact that we both wear black shirts today. It got us talking about the fact that the way people react to these situations can actually make or break what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the message we want to bring today is that the decisions that you make now can, as Kirby said, make or break what's going to happen with your organization in the future. However, there are a few points that we actually want to touch on, because having been through economic ups and downs like this before throughout our careers, we can see the difference between organizations that take action appropriately, meaning they make the right decisions, and the ones that make decisions based out of fear, emotion. And one thing we were talking about today was bias. So we want to just jump on and hopefully influence some of the decisions that are made in a positive way, because we both believe firmly, again, having been through this before, that if you make the right decisions now, you'll be able to stave off or even weather some of the storm that appears to be beginning.
And when you touched on it, there's one thing, and I just posted on Instagram about this yesterday, which is the role that fear plays. My first career was in risk management, and for decades spent a lot of my time thinking about fear as an ally to actually manipulate people into decisions. And what I see now is that getting over fear, putting fear aside, caution, concern, they have merit, but fear is a great debilitator, and it leaps and sneaks its way in, and it almost can become the silent pilot of your decision making, because where does it go? It becomes that bias that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is when you start to see these large multinationals making decisions very publicly about cutting costs, letting go of the workforce, and doing a very visible contraction, that for those that aren't multinationals, say you do just have maybe a few thousand employees or a few hundred or maybe even 25, you think, oh no, like if someone that large is starting to scale back, what's that going to do for us? And maybe we might have to do the same thing, where that's not always the case.
No, and you can start to see preemptive reactions, especially for organizations that are part of that ecosystem. They start to behave in a way that is fear-based, what could happen, as opposed to thinking through it as an opportunity rather than a risk. This mentality in the face of opportunity, that you see a threat, is completely a mind game. This is all in your head. Right? It's a complete defense mechanism, of which there's like tons out there in the neuroscience world. And it's a learned response.
Yes. And we have to remember, the individuals running these organizations are human beings.
Right. And so what happens is when you get into this rut of seeing opportunities as threats, well, you got to break that routine.
Right. So as Kirby was saying, a lot of times when organizations see the large multinationals starting to contract, they kind of take it as a sign that there's a ton of risk, there's a lot of adversity coming up in the future, near future, and a lot of decisions are made based on fear.
And while we have a webinar that talks about actually this specific issue, which is the relationship between the way your mind works, this issue of fear and the attitudes you have about risk. So we're not going to go into that.
Yeah.
We're looking to go directly into how this affects business decisions in times of downturns, perceived downturns,
Yeah.
you know, and really what that's all about.
Right, so what the message for this particular video is that even though you're starting to see some of the larger organizations contract, try not to make decisions, rash decisions as everyone likes to call them, based out of fear of what you perceive to be coming or what you feel you predict is going to happen in the future.
And the key issue here for me is to focus, and you've seen this of me at many presentations, less about stopping.
Yes, true.
And more about doing.
Yes.
And, you know, I can point you to 99 quotes and 55 websites in 2 minutes that talk about the power of focusing on what you want.
Yeah.
And so this comes back to your business purpose, your business values, and your business strategy.
Yeah.
Your strategy may need to shift.
Absolutely.
Your big goals may need to modify.
Yes.
But if you're all about integrity and excellence and in a very,
Team.
very constructive business, to then turn around and take a chainsaw to a major part of that organization is just absolutely screams being disingenuous.
Well, and I also think it's irresponsible. It's irresponsible because oftentimes what you perceive to be a risk and the antidote to that risk are completely disconnected, because you're making decisions based in fear, you're making decisions based on what other organizations are doing, and you're not actually looking at what makes sense for you and your organization with the people you have, the processes you have right now. I can think of dozens and dozens of clients that I've worked with who thought they needed to get rid of a large swath of the employee base to save on costs. Now, obviously, in modern times, letting go of your staff is a modern way to cut costs. We understand that from the days of manufacturing. I think it was Ford that started doing this. However, there's so much waste in other areas of the business that if you are proactive and you start to take a look at where that waste is, you can save yourself, your culture, the integrity of your organization, a lot of upheaval. If you start now to make the necessary changes to fix the pieces that are bleeding money, where processes are broken, where no one has a strategy in place, old ways of doing things are still, like, you need to start looking at these places now so that 18 months from now, you're not cutting entire divisions, letting go of a quarter of your workforce because you have no idea how to move forward otherwise.
This is where actually my experience with Lean and Six Sigma actually taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And this has a lot more to do with Lean,
Yes.
which is all about efficiency,
Precisely.
than it does about Six Sigma, which has to do with precision and repeatability.
Right.
You're absolutely right. Most organizations, their efficiency is horrid. Absolutely horrid. Like we're talking way south of 40%.
Yeah.
Many of them are south of 30%. And when you've got that volume of inefficiency, the idea that you could just start to hack and cut away to efficiency is mad.
Yeah.
Look, I've been around enough businesses to understand that sometimes if 25% of your revenue disappears, you may not be able to keep all your people.
Sure.
Yet, to go and cut the people and then make yourself more efficient is a recipe for disaster.
And it doesn't work. You see this all the time with the team that's left over. So you cut 15 people in a division, you're left with 20. Because your processes are not efficient and things aren't fixed, and this is why I loved Lean Sigma as well. I was always drawn to the efficiency side of things. Because you hadn't made that process efficient to begin with, you now have 20 people left over doing the workload of 35, and your culture continues to tank. And what happens?
They leave.
Morale goes down, they leave, and when morale is down and your people aren't there, how on earth are you supposed to make money and serve your clients?
And
it's a domino effect.
The institutional knowledge just evaporates.
Oh, that too, yeah.
And I've seen this, I can remember vividly, a colleague of mine, they were acquired by another firm, and the company laid out major incentives because the institutional knowledge is everything.
Yeah.
This is the way our process is supposed to be. This is how it actually works.
Yeah.
And when it really goes bad, that's the way it works that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
And you need all that knowledge to fix the processes so you can come back and say, we had 50 or 35 people, we actually could, now that we're more efficient, that means our operating income as a ratio is better.
Yeah.
So instead of getting rid of like 15 or 20 people, we're only going to get rid of 7, sorry, but we'll take care of you when we send you out the door. We won't
Yes.
screw you over and send you to your lawyer.
That is an option. The other option for those 7 people is to deploy them in other areas of the business where they can make a difference, and you actually just redistribute the knowledge and process capabilities and strengthen your business instead of cutting everyone off at the knees.
Or you convert them to contractors.
There's so many options.
Because they know the business. There are so many options other than just to take a sword and cut it all off and leave your company crippled.
So I think the main message that we want to put out, and again, this was done quite impromptu, just because we know how important this point in time is don't panic. Don't make decisions based on fear. Try not to react and overreact to what's starting to happen. And really look at your business, your organization. Just because another organization has chosen to make certain measures does not mean it's the right one for your organization.
Absolutely. You know, there's that famous, wonderful, irreverent book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And one of the things it says is don't panic. My closing comment is this, is that fear is a choice. A lot of people don't believe that. They believe that fear is an inbred instinctive thing. I think there's truth in that. I also believe that you learn and develop a relationship with fear. And I firmly believe in all that I've done and all that I've seen, that you can re-educate your mind in terms of how it processes fear so that it doesn't become this debilitating thing that makes you blind to something that's right in front of you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm Kirby James from the GYST Method.
And I'm Nicole Gerard from the GYST Method. Thank you for joining us on this quick video. We'll see you again soon.
Look forward to it, and please, like those guys passing through, make sure you pass through your comments to us.
Till next time.